Hey, what's going on, guys, and welcome back to another Fallout 4 Mods Weekly, the show where we take a look at some of the really cool and interesting mods to come out in the past week for Fallout 4. This week, yet again, we have another weapons-heavy episode. As a matter of fact, 4 of the 5 mods this week are brand new guns. But we do have one other little goodie in this video, and the mods released this week are pretty dang cool, including one new weapon by myself and Pig. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in. Starting off with the first mod this week, which is the Remington Model 870 by Galore2882. This is going to add the classic Remington 870 pump-action shotgun into Fallout 4, complete with a brand new set of custom models and textures, custom animations, and even bullet-counted reload support. This thing comes with a surprising amount of customization for a shotgun, including multiple optics, types of barrels, as well as some fancy new ammo types you can equip as well that will change how the weapon functions. I think this is definitely one of my favorite 870 options on the Nexus right now. The model is absolutely stunning and it looks beautiful in-game. On top of that, this weapon is added to the level list and is injected via script, so you will find this thing out in the world on enemies. One thing that's really cool with this mod is it does have a built-in BCR support, so if you like bullet-counted reload, it will work automatically with this mod. No optional files needed whatsoever, it just works automatically, which is a really nice feature. Beyond that though, this is a pretty simple shotgun mod, not too many crazy bells or whistles. Let's go ahead and check out the custom animations and sound design for this thing before we move on to the next one. Now, the next mod we're checking out is going to bring back a classic weapon from Fallout New Vegas, and that is the Silence 22 pistol by Alexerator. This mod is going to add the classic Fallout New Vegas early game weapon into Fallout 4, complete with some brand new custom animations as well as custom attachments over at the weapons workbench. This weapon is added to the level list and will start spawning in the world after level 1. Again, this is intended for the early game, and it will be found on raiders and agents of the railroad. And of course, you can purchase it from vendors or even get a chance to find it in the legendary loot pool as well. Now, because this is a 22 pistol, it is going to require munitions for the 22 ammo type. So yet again, we have another munitions only mod. I'm sure there will be many patches in the future to either remove that dependency or to add a vanilla version, but for right now, this is going to come with a munitions requirement. But if you're using munitions already, that shouldn't be a big deal. On top of that, this mod does utilize munitions in multiple ways. Not only does it require it for the 22 ammo type, but there's even a 9mm rechamber if you want to get some extra damage out of this weapon. An interesting quirk with this weapon is despite having multiple barrel attachments, they are all suppressed. So this is going to be a suppressed only option, a pretty interesting way to help balance this and add a reason to use it in the early game. And on top of all of that, there's even a unique added in this mod that's going to add a nice darker color scheme and tie this weapon to the Brotherhood of Steel. If you want to get your hands on it, you can find it over at Recon Bunker Theta right next to a member of the Circle of Steel, a nice little callback to some Fallout lore. And since this weapon does come with custom animations, I'll go ahead and show those off now, and then we'll move on to the next one. Now, the next mod we're checking out is another new pistol, and that is the 30 Carbine pistol, otherwise known as the AMT Automag III, by myself and Pig. This is going to be a brand new pistol, completely custom with brand new models and textures, as well as custom animations and custom sounds. I have to say, this is a really nice pistol that I'm quite proud of. This model in particular was one that Pig has been asking for quite a while, and I finally got around to making it, and I'm so glad that I did. And this mod is also the first in our brand new Commonwealth Weaponry Expansion project, which I'll talk about a little bit more after the mod. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with the Automag III, this is a pretty heavy pistol chambered in 30 carbines, so you're getting a pretty big round in a pretty small package. We went for a pretty retro design, trying to keep everything in line with Fallout 4's aesthetic, and I have to say I'm pretty happy with the final result. This thing does come with a good bit of customization over at the weapons workbench, and it is added to the level list and will start spawning out in the world after level 12. You can find it on Raiders, Gunners, and the Brotherhood of Steel. Or you can start purchasing it from shops right out the gate at level 0. It's immediately purchasable, but you're not going to see it out in the world until a little bit later in the game. Now, much like the last mod, this one also requires munitions for that 30 carbine ammo type. So if you're going to use munitions, you might as well grab both of these mods and you get a lot of bang for your buck. On top of that, there's even a unique in this mod that's going to use 12.7mm ammunition, also from munitions. You can even find a brand new magazine added in this mod as well that is found over in Arturo's house, which will give you a nice little damage bonus anytime you use this pistol. That was a neat little idea by Pig. Now, a quick word on the Commonwealth Weaponry expansion. This is going to be the new parent name for any future weapon projects trying to keep in with the Fallout 4 lore and aesthetic. So any mods made by myself and Pig will be part of this big family of weapons, and this is the first standalone release that will be part of that. I'll also be retroactively adding branding to some of the older weapon mods that we've made that kind of fit in line with that as well. And eventually we will be adding a brand new expansion mod that will kind of expand the Commonwealth Weaponry group. In the base game, that is just Arturo and his store, but we're going to be making it into a much larger faction akin to the gun runners from the West Coast. Stay tuned for in the future, we will have some more news on this, but as of right now, it's just getting its foot in the door, so we'll talk about that a little bit more at a later date. Now, before we go on to the next mod, of course, I do want to show off the custom animations and custom sounds for the Automag III. Now, the next mod we're checking out is the only mod this week that isn't a brand new weapon, though it does have to do with weapons, and that is the Fallout New Vegas Weapon Requirements mod by FNV V1. This mod is going to add back the system from Fallout New Vegas that requires strength for your weapons to be used. Now, if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, in New Vegas there was a feature that required certain amounts of strength to use certain weapons. So for heavy guns per se, you would need a high level in strength for them to be used efficiently and accurately. If your strength was too low, they have intense weapon sway and a very, very poor accuracy stat. And this also applies to melee weapons as well. If you have a low strength, the weapons are going to do less damage and they're not going to be used efficiently. And this isn't just the damage perk like Fallout 4, this is a stat that is based on your level of strength. The higher your strength is, the more efficient you can use these weapons. There's even a % chance roll that anytime you hit with a weapon that you don't have enough strength to use, it'll do even less damage. So anyways, this mod is going to take that framework and apply it to Fallout 4 and all of its weapons, and there's even compatibility for modded weapons thanks to the Robco patcher. Now, this mod comes with a whole lot of stat changes, and it even comes with an in-depth MCM menu where you can change some of these stats to better apply to your game. The newly added MCM menu comes in 3 different categories. We have the hipfire accuracy debuff. This is going to change how bad the accuracy is in hipfire depending on the strength requirement for the weapon. So you can change it based on what it is. As you can see, we have the penalty for 9 strength required weapons. If you are not meeting that 9 strength requirement, it's going to have a pretty hefty penalty compared to something that only requires 1 strength, which makes a good bit of sense. And you can, of course, adjust these to better suit your game and how much realism or non-realism you want. We also have the damage modifiers for melee weapons, and again, that chance for them to deal even less damage if you don't meet that strength requirement. And then finally, the module that you can turn on with see-through scopes that adds wobble to your weapons. So it has actual increased weapon sway when you don't have the strength requirement to aim said weapon. And that can be displayed very simply on a heavy weapon. As you can see on this harpoon gun, I have 0 strength on this character, and the weapon sway is pretty massive. Altogether, this is a pretty neat framework, adding some cool bits of realism and a reason to buff up that strength stat. And finally, that's going to take us to the last mod of the video, which is of course a brand new weapon mod, and that is the Ultimate AUG Family Modern Warfare 2022 by Ozzy the Raven. This is, of course, a port of Modern Warfare 2022's AUG, complete with 3 brand new weapons. The weapons include the STB-556, which is your standard 5.56 version of the AUG, the HCR-56, which is an LMG variant, and the MX9, which is a 9mm conversion. The STB-556 and the HCR are both technically the same weapon and can be converted at a weapons workbench with various attachments, but the MX9 is a completely separate weapon with its own chamber and own attachments, and even though it is 9mm, in this version of the mod it is in 38. Of course, there is no 9mm in the base game, and rather than having an ammo dependency, this one just uses 38, though of course I'm sure there will be patches in the future for the various ammo mods that exist. Speaking of patches, there are multiple patches for this mod, including the side aim framework patch, as well as a tactical reload patch. So if you're a fan of either of those mods, they do have additional files in the file section of this one. As for acquiring any of these weapons, they are not added to the leveled list, sadly. You can craft them over at the chemistry station, or you can find them at one of 3 world spawns. You can grab the 5.56 variant over at the Red Rocket, the LMG variant is at the Fort Hagen Armory, and for some reason the 9mm variant is at Public Occurrences. Since this mod is directly ported from Modern Warfare 2022, it of course does have beautiful models and textures as it is a AAA studio, and of course some wonderful custom animations as well. But with that, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap things up for this week's Mods Weekly. Lots of new guns to play with. I'll have them all linked down in the description below as always, along with Xbox links if there are any available. I know for sure that the Automag III just got its port over to Xbox, so Xbox users can enjoy that right now. With that though, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to drop a rating, it really helps out the channel, and consider subscribing if you haven't already for more videos just like this. Big shout out to all of my patrons for supporting every single video, and of course a very special thank you to Jeremy Briggs, Backbone, Danny, Freedom, Glasma, Damien, Indecisive Wolf, Logan Rigmaiden, Lord Dose, Microhon, Oscar, Scott, Sterling, Timmy76, Youth RC, and Voider for joining that Tier 3 Patreon membership. If you'd like to support the channel over on Patreon, you can do so using the link down in the description, but it is completely optional. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Peace!